Blank pages. Are they pristine surfaces that shouldn't be touched? No, they are more like welcome mats, looking forward to getting muddied up when you wipe your thoughts on them. Oh yes, only the most elegant analogies are allowed here. Today I'm sharing 5 easy ideas you might want to try in your sketchbook if you're feeling like you want to create but aren't too sure what to do. Feel free to adapt them in any ways that suit you, and let's have a little creative chill together. This first page is super simple, and deliberately so. Sometimes my brain can feel a bit slow to get going, and drawing something which requires no prep or thought can ease me in. I popped some tape around the edges of my page, but this is optional. You could just draw a box or let the design go right to the edges of the page. I drew some random straight lines with a ruler, plopping them wherever felt right, and then added in some curves. I used the intersections as points for the curve to start or stop, and tried to make sure that they weren't all curving in the same direction. Then I grabbed a set of watercolours and started filling in the shapes I had made with colours. These watercolours are the first ones I ever got and are cheap and cheerful. They are not always the most pigmented, but they work fine for noodling around like this. I was in the mood to use rainbow colours, so I simply worked my way through the whole palette. But you could restrict your palette to get a different vibe, perhaps using the cooler shades like blues and greens, or warmer ones like yellows and reds, and see where they take you. This part is essentially just colouring in, so you can let your mind wander. You could swap out using watercolour and use marker pens or coloured pencils. Whatever you have at hand will work fine. Try not to worry too much if you colour over a line or it feels a bit messy. Sketchbooks are okay with being messy. And messy is often just a waypoint in the process. Give it a nod as you pass through it, and then look forward to the next point. Once everything was coloured and dried, I reached for a pen to outline with. I grabbed a Posca paint marker, but instead of black, which is my usual outlining default, I grabbed the blue. Then I started outlining my shapes. It's such a simple thing to outline with a different colour, but it's amazingly easy to forget to do it. So this sketchbook exercise is a simple reminder to try it once in a while. Grab a colour without thinking too much about whether it will look good or whether it will match the colours on the page. Start outlining with it and see what the effect turns out like. If the colours clash, that's okay. Once everything is outlined, you can see how you feel. Do you want to stop and leave it now and move on to a new idea? Or is there something else that you could do on this page? It's like an adventure book where either pathway you choose will lead to fresh creativity. I actually came back a day or so later and decided to go a bit scribble-tastic over the top of it. I don't know why, I just felt a bit destructive and wanted to see what it looked like. I'm not sure if I like it visually, but it was physically pretty gratifying to do. Then I started rounding some corners off at some of the scribble intersections, only because that too is enjoyable and relaxing to do. Lastly, I took a ballpoint pen and hatched in some colour. If you try this idea out, give in to whatever whims you have. Choose the colours that you like, the mediums that call to you, and then see what you can do to mess them up a little bit. You might be surprised at what you end up with. By the end of mine, I had a scribbly, colourful hodgepodge of a page, which doesn't need to be anything other than what it is. It was fun to create, and that's enough. Okay, this next idea is about exploring repetition, and it's one of my favourites. I shared my first version of this idea in a short. I'll link it below if you fancy checking it out too. And I loved it so much I wanted to see how it looked in another incarnation. I'm using 3 coloured marker pens. I like using the brush nibs for this, but you could easily use paints or pastels if you fancied it. It's all about drawing sticks, moving from short sticks to longer sticks and back down to short ones again. As you move across the page, drawing these sticks, you can let the directions change as you wish, perhaps letting the sticks become spirals or letting them fall off the edge of the page. Once I had completed a stick pathway, I took a different colour and drew half sticks in between all of the gaps, coming from one side of the shape. Then I took another different colour and did the same, but from the other side of the shape. This first one reminded me of a worm or a snake, which felt a little bit ooh, but also a little bit, oh, cool. With one down, there was a page full to go, and I settled into the rhythm very nicely. I let the shapes form intuitively, allowing some to pass behind others and varying which colour I used first so that there was subtle differences between them. You how pleasing this sketchbook idea becomes once you have a few sticks snaking across the page. It's weirdly absorbing, and I think it creates a really cool design which could totally be the first steps on the way to a fun pattern design or art print. I hope you'll give it a try. Right, number 3 is a little more focused. Now we've warmed up with some creative abstraction, let's dive into something a little bit more figurative. Grab something, anything really, that is nearby and that is easy to either hold in your hand or place beside you so that you can sketch it. Sketching is important. It helps us to practice seeing things in a way that is more intentional. It trains our eyes to spot highlights and shadows and reminds us that the majority of the time spent in drawing something is spent in the looking. I picked up this paint tube and sketched it roughly, picking out some details carefully and hinting at others. There's no limit to how long you can spend on this. Go with whatever feels right to you, whether it be a quick expressive sketch or a more intricate drawing. Once I was happy with the sketch, I moved across the page and started drawing it again. Yup, the same tube at the same angle. Repetition in sketching can highlight some interesting things. It's amazing how 2 sketches done by the same person of the same thing within moments of each other can look so different. It takes practice to be able to render subjects consistently, and it's something that I'm still working on. Okay, so here's the bit that can be challenging. Once you have a couple of sketches which you feel happy enough with, push them into the background. Here's what I mean by that. I took some purple ink, ooh, so deep and purpley, and mixed it with a blob of water. Then, with the widest brush I had, which wasn't very big sadly, I stroked the ink over the top of my sketches. I let some ink blobs trickle down the page and dabbed some texture in with a kitchen towel. This is a simple thing to do, but if you are anything like me, you might find you really have to push yourself to muddy up your sketch like this. When I've spent a bit of time on a sketch and I like elements of it, I kind of lean towards not wanting to ruin it. But disrupting that mindset is the basis for this sketchbook idea. It's good to realise that in order to learn new things and discover new thoughts, we may need to break up our tried and tested habits. It's helpful to know that even if we've spent time on something, it's okay to take a risk with it, and that even if it doesn't turn out like we hope, it won't have been wasted time. In washing the ink over my first sketches, they became part of the history of the page and not the focus. It was a permission to go a few steps further and see where it might take me. Once the ink had dried, I took a fine liner and, rotating the sketchbook into portrait, drew one last version of the paint tube. This one was a sketch where every line would be seen regardless of whether I liked them or not. It forced me to accept the decisions I took and keep working with them to find solutions. On a whim, I also added some small patches of pattern too and outlined the ink splotches. It was a fun experiment and it looks better than I thought it would. This next one is about breaking up a page into smaller sections, picking a theme and exploring different variations of it in each box. It can be a simple doodle exercise, and that's what mine turned out to be. This kind of sectioning can help a blank page become a bit less intimidating. Suddenly, the spaces you are looking to fill are smaller and don't seem so sprawling. It also allows for a few different ideas to play out on one page in their own arenas, but which you can view together and start finding connections between. It's good to use something you can't erase for this, so I used a fine liner. Doodling with pen is weirdly freeing. It commits you to the marks you make on the page, and because there's no turning back, it makes you more eager to embrace moving forwards. My theme is simple here: leaves. I wanted my boxes to connect to each other in some way, so I started with drawing lines through the boxes, but only let a couple cross over into each other. Then it was just a case of doodling leaves onto the vine lines. In the bottom box, I went with loosely drawn pointed leaves, letting them be irregular and free-flowing. I let one leaf escape an edge of the box, but the rest were contained. In the upper left box, I drew darker, tighter, jagged leaves, which gave a nice contrast to the lighter ones below. And in the upper right box, I drew smaller pairs of leaves, which crept up the vines more neatly. This point is where you might leave it. I did at first, but I came back a bit later and added a little two-tone colour scheme using a neutral beige and darker blue. I like how clean it feels as a page, and again, it could be a good reference point for generating pattern ideas later. Lastly, let's play with perspective in a way which is a bit looser with the rules. This idea also has a shorter, quirkier version you can find linked below. I started with a box. Then I drew another box beside it and connected it up with the first, using lines from their closest corners. I coloured in the wonky section with a gradient, working from dark on one edge to light on the other. I used a 6B pencil, which meant this was very easy to do. Then I drew another box lower down and connected that up, again colouring in the wonky section with a gradient. I had made a triangle on the upper section by connecting 2 points, and so I coloured this in with one dark shade and made another similar triangle lower down. So with this, I had a bit of a rule set laid out. Boxes would be white, wonky connecting shapes would be gradients, and triangles would be black. From this point, it was just a case of repeating the process, drawing boxes and connecting them up until the page was filled. Once the page was covered, I started changing the rules. I decided to use a fine liner and draw some simple crosshatch lines into some boxes, and then filled some wonky lines which had been created by accident with fan lines. I really loved drawing those fan lines, all radiating from one point. It was so simple, yet felt really effective. This is just a collection of boxes and lines, but I think the page looks really cool once it's done, and it can be twirled from portrait to landscape and it still looks interesting. Will you give this one a try? Can you believe it? You've made it to the end. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If it's been useful at all, please click the like button, as it really helps to support my channel, and the subscribe button is right there too, should you wish to explore more creative nuggets with me in the future. I really hope you will. If you do have a go at any of these sketchbook noodles, let me know how you get on. For now, my friends, stay curious, keep making happy, and I'll see you next time.